Nowadays, Re-Amemiya is probably best known for competing in the GT300 class of Super GT, Best Motoring Toge, Tokyo Auto Salon, and their appearance in Gran Turismo. Less mentioned is the man himself, Isami Amemiya, a household name in the Japanese car tuning industry and a revered legend known for specializing in Mazdas and rotary engine cars. Even less mentioned than that is the story of how he became Japan's greatest rotary engine tuner. Isami Amemiya is mostly known as extroverted, fearless, and sometimes horny. Born into poverty, he moved away from home at the age of 15, from Yamanashi to Tokyo. Eventually, he found work as a transporter, worked in the plastics industry, and then started working in metal. And this is when he started street racing. Working as a painter, he started making good money, and by the time he was 20, he had a rotary engine Mazda Familia. The year after, he finally established his own metal shop. Between 1964 and 1974, he street raced all around Tokyo for about 10 years. It was around this time when he started making a name for himself in inner circles, often crossing paths with other people who would eventually become legends in their own right. He raced a variety of cars, including a first-gen Mazda Carol, Austin Healey 3-litre, Honda S600, Toyota Sports 800, Nissan Cherry, and Toyota Celica LB. In around 1974, police started to crack down on street racing around Tokyo, and everyone turned their attention to the Tomei Expressway. By this time, Isami Amemiya was around 30 years old, and this was when he started what we now know as Re-Amemiya. At the time, it was just a small tuning shop in Koto, where he could monetize his expertise with cars. In the 70s, the Tomei Expressway was the central place to go street racing in Japan. Hundreds of cars, some in teams and some working alone, would gather at the Ebina service area. They were preparing to storm the highway at maximum speed for 30 kilometers until they reached the Tokyo Tollway. The cars back then were a lot less safe than the cars of today, and many drivers risked their lives in the name of speed. Spectators parked on either sides of the highway, at median strips and at bus stops to watch the cars go by. Isami Amemiya was one of the best, and his prominence as a street racer helped build up his reputation as a car builder. At some point, the RX-3 became a popular choice for many people, and this was when Isami Amemiya started to specialize in rotaries. In 1978, he took his very light rotary-powered 12A Shanters to the Yatabe test track, and it did the quarter mile in 12.5 seconds. This was really fast at the time, and the event was covered by Autosport OPT magazine, where Re-Amemiya made its first media appearance. In 1981, Daijiro Inada started Option magazine, which would eventually become the biggest magazine covering tuning culture in Japan. Re-Amemiya cars started to make an appearance in the magazine, and Isami's synonymity with Option catapulted him to the national level. As the 80s arrived, Isami Amemiya moved to a new shop where he prepared for the dawning era. In 1982, Yoshida arrived on the scene and he created Midnight, but would eventually become the most infamous street racing team ever. 1983 saw the first year of the Tokyo Auto Salon, where highly tuned cars were displayed for the general public to access. Re-Amemiya, of course, was there. The street racing continued, though sad crashes, congestion inconveniences, and police crackdowns often meant that the racing spots moved around. The 80s were all about top speed, with many tuning shops building high-speed demo cars. The Z20 and Z10 Saurers, along with the 280Z, were very popular cars, 300 kilometers per hour. That was the special number to beat, and Re-Amemiya got there in 1985. By this time, Re-Amemiya built many iconic cars, many of which you could see for real at events. A lot of these consisted of Yatabe spec FCs, such as the Re-Am FC, and a rotary-powered Lotus Europa. Shortly after the Europa, Amemiya joined Midnight in 1987, giving Yoshida a lot of advice. Re-Amemiya started to work with other brands to make their own parts. In 1988, the rotary-powered Bomx-kitted Honda Today debuted at Tokyo Auto Salon, followed by the Greddy 1 in 1989. The Greddy 1 was a crazy, customized show car with standard performance packed in as well. Like the GTR R32, it was a peak into the 1990s. Car customization really took off in the 1990s, and Re-Amemiya built some crazy cars following the Greddy 1. These included the Greddy 2, Greddy 3, Bombex FC, Super G FDs, Ad Facer FDs, and the AZ1. The Wangan became the forefront for top speed, and catalogues where you could buy Re-Amemiya parts became a normal thing. With the 90s scene in full effect and a new focus on aero parts, racers were buying Re-Amemiya side mirrors, wheels and 300 km/h gauges. In 1995, Re-Amemiya had enough money to enter Super GT, and soon, in 1999, those cars would appear in Gran Turismo 2, where millions of kids around the world would take an interest in his cars. The rest, as they say, is history. D1, Best Motoring and the World Time Attack Challenge followed. Despite his success, Isami Amemiya still raced on the Bay Area well into his 70s. He is one of the founding fathers of tuning as we know it today, and this, in my opinion, is what makes him Japan's greatest rotary engine tuner.